speak the truth. Got a mic in our hand, yeah, we're breaking loose. From behind the bars, the breaking glass.
It's your song right here.
Yo, it's George, Jesse, and Jeremy on the mic. 3 outlaws on a mission, man, it feels so right.
We just lost our last 3 viewers.
You worked hard on this song.
I can't hear me.
Podcast fame, taking back our power, no more shame. We used to win numbers, now we win names. Laughing at our haters, cause we changed the game. We got Todd Wade in the house of 26.
I can't hear the song.
Well, we did a sound check before, so we're kind of screwed right now. Welcome everybody. Glad you're here. Got a little bit of a sound issue. Try to fix it.
There it is.
Got it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, here we are.
Good to go. So it's
Outlaws to Advocates, not Geek Squad.
.geeksquad.com. We're in the house, man. My name's George Nolan, recovery advocate, reentry advocate, and that's about me.
All right. Jesse Messer, same thing. Recovery advocate, reentry advocate. Person trying to find his way.
I think you found it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and you're riding it, right? Jeremy, recovery advocate, soul searcher, positive influencer, even though I don't have some following on Instagram or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a great cameraman, George.
Yeah, he's good, man. Good. That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah, well, we're doing this barefoot with a dog running around crazy, and things are happening, but at least we got here. We're on. Tonight we're going to talk about bullshit. We hear a lot of bullshit in our lives. I don't care if you've been to prison, if you haven't been to prison, if you've been on drugs, if you haven't been on drugs. Every walk of life you hear stuff that's just not true, stuff that you might believe, stuff that could potentially hold you back. So today we're gonna go through that. And I was talking to Ashley this morning, actually, and I read a quote, and it was really, really cool, man. It said, lions don't lose any sleep over the opinions of sheep.
Yeah.
I was like, fucking right on, dude.
Yeah.
Right on. Because everybody's got things to say, and they got their opinions, and they got this and that and their perspective, and they're entitled to it, and that's awesome. And I love those people. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. You guys?
No.
No,
Not one
gonna
bit.
lose sleep.
Absolutely.
Spent too many years losing sleep over what other people thought. Not anymore.
I'm saying. Chris Stewart, what's up, buddy? Glad you're here. So, talking about reentry, Jess, when you came home or when you were in prison, or we got cheat sheets too tonight, guys. What's something you heard that you believed and that you worked hard and found out wasn't true?
Well, one of the things that I heard was that, being a felon, even if you work in behavioral health as a peer support specialist, you'll never be able to work with children. Adolescents, that's one of the things that I heard.
That's true.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because I work with adolescents.
Really?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I guess I was wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
That's great, man. That's great. How did it feel to overcome that and to figure that out and to learn that it's a possibility?
I'll tell you what, when I got out and I stopped listening to what everybody told me the entire time that I was in, and I just started living in my purpose, I started learning that 99% of the shit that I heard was bullshit, just like you said. And really, there's a lot more doors and opportunities open to people like us than I ever would have thought.
No.
Really, the felonies aren't as big a barrier today as they used to be, or as I used to think that they were. I don't even know that they really were in the past. Because even in the past, anytime I was in a halfway house, I could always find a job.
Nice.
So, I mean, I really almost think that it was just, negative stigma, self-stigma, stuff that I believed, and just none of it was true.
Yeah, it's easy to believe. And Kristen Day's on here trying to steal you for a podcast on, I believe it's, I don't have my glasses on. I believe it says the 25th.
How you doing, Kristen?
Kristen Day's in the house.
Yeah.
Green hair and everything, man. She ain't playing. What about you, Jeremy? What's something that you heard or were told or?
Well, I think, so when we were at the Second Chance Center, that whole entire time, like when I was incarcerated, I was thinking, well, I'll never be able to, own a home or, be able to rent a property. And there was this gal that came in, and educated us on the crime-free addendum and what that means, right? And if you have a felony on your record and you can afford that property, you can move in anywhere.
No.
You can move in anywhere. And it was trifling to hear how predatory these property management companies have become over the course of the last few years by just denying people. Because technically they don't have to give you a reason, right? But they can sure take your money.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see that there's some movement, at the Capitol on, issues like that. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm just thinking about my journey, and I'm just thinking like everything that I've done since I've been out has been something that the majority of the prison population spent my entire time telling me I couldn't do it. I mean, they told me that I could never get a level 1 fingerprint clearance card. Almost everybody gets the fingerprint clearance card.
Yeah.
They told me you could never get it on parole. I got it on parole. They told me that you'll never make any money in behavioral health. I'm making pretty good money in behavioral health. They told me,
I remember at one point you told me you couldn't make any money in behavioral health.
because I heard it and I believed it. I was like a parrot.
What did you do too? You're like, first day on the mine, you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a second. You went to the mine at work, right?
Oh my God. Let's not even get into that.
Let's hear
No,
about
please,
that day.
let's
Let's
hear
hear
it.
about
Let's
that
hear
day.
it.
Yeah, so I got out and I got so wrapped up. I got so wrapped up in thinking that I needed to make money, because my entire life I had based my success on how much money I had or what I had. Because my self-worth was so low, that's what I thought I needed to be valued in society as somebody that made it, that had arrived, right? And what I found out was that, that's so far from the truth. I mean, I took a job at a mine when I first got out just because the pay was really well, thinking, well, I'm going to make a lot of money. Everything's going to be good. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to show everybody how good I'm doing. I'm sober. I remember I was there one fucking day and I hated it. I wanted to put a fucking bullet in my head. It sucked. And I was like,
what was the pay?
it was almost $30 an hour to start right away.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things to where immediately I was convicted and I knew this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. This isn't what your life experience is for. This isn't what everything that you've been through is for. This is not why you are here, to work at a fucking mine, dude.
Yeah.
What was the conversations like at work that day?
There was no conversation at work. It was training. I was miserable. I was convicted. It was almost like relapsing after a long stint of sobriety when you just can't even enjoy the high because you just feel like, man, this fucking sucks. I'm an idiot. That's how I felt at the mine. It's like, this fucking sucks. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things to where it was like, man, this is so far from why I'm here on this earth that I just couldn't do it. And having gone into behavioral health, I mean, my life is just the trajectory of the last year, where I'm at today and where I was when I got out, where I was at a decade ago when I was on the street, is so far beyond any comprehension that I ever would have thought was possible for myself. And I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Awesome. Year out.
Yeah.
Got a job you love, making a livable wage.
3
happy.
vehicles, 750 credit score.
Well, one's your brother's, but.
You're so stupid. They're mine. A bike, a truck, and an Audi. They're all mine.
Oh, that's right. I forgot, man. That's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's good shit, man.
It's like you said about the mind thing. I got moved from Globe. I've been in peer support for a minute. I got moved from Globe to Second Chance as a peer. But the way it works there is you show up there, you get a different job, and you hang around those guys and volunteer your time and see if you're a good fit for the program. It's kind of the way it works. And so while I was doing that, they put me on a maintenance crew. That crew was pretty fucking live, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, I do not want to be around this crew. I'm up on ladders. There's shit going on down there. I'm like, dude, you guys give me a fucking ticket. I'm going to be pissed the fuck off, dude. But that was my learning lesson, because there is other opportunities, right? There is other opportunities. And even if I could have gone and done them, I didn't want to be exposed to that shit. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in behavioral health, but at least if it is happening somewhere, they're usually hiding it, right? It's not out in the open or celebrated or whatever. And to be honest with you, I haven't had that experience. I had that experience plenty in prison.
Yeah.
But outside of prison to this day, I haven't had that experience. So that's something I'm grateful for. And you brought up Raquel, who came into the Second Chance Centers, and she's awesome, because that's something else that I was told.
Yeah.
Can't buy a house because you have to have 2 years of
Yeah.
income coming in,
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. I talked to realtors who told me that.
Yeah.
Realtors who didn't get that commission when Raquel hooked me up with her realtor and we bought this house.
Yeah.
Right? People that are doing this for a living. And I remember talking to one realtor, and we started getting into the financials, and I was like, listen, man, I'm just going to be transparent with you. This is my background. Don't have income for the last 2 years. I was in prison until a few months ago, and is that going to be an issue? You know, he's a regular dude. You know, I get it. He's like, I don't want to hear about it, bro, but you know, I'll work with you. Yeah. No, you won't, dude. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I called Raquel back, and I was like, hey, do you know a realtor who's willing to work with some dude who just got out of shop? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got you.
Yeah.
And between her and Jennifer Hogbeck, it was a great experience. And it's one of those things that if I would have listened to all the people that said this, that, and the other, and on the other side of that realtor thing, that level 1 fingerprint clearance card, right? Getting told we can't do it, can't get it, probation, parole. Well, you got it on parole. I got mine on probation. You can absolutely fucking do it on paper. It wasn't even that hard of a process. Getting into DOC is a fucking hard process.
Yeah.
Are we going into the prisons? Oh yeah, we do, don't we?
Oh yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
And that's something that we do on parole
Yeah, on parole
and on probation,
and on probation,
freshly out of prison.
freshly out of prison.
But we can't do that.
No, you can't.
So how are we?
A miracle. It's a fucking miracle. But that was the worst process in the level 1 fingerprint clearance card. But the day I got that letter stating, hey, I can now work around vulnerable populations, because I don't even need it for work for what my role is, but it's just something I did for me, right? I kind of seen you do it, and I was like, hey, I want to do that too. I want to break a barrier. But the day I got it and said, hey, you know, you're cleared. The state of Arizona now says I can be around its most vulnerable populations, including children, but I can't go sell a house, or I can't work in a bank.
Oh, you can't vote?
I can't vote. You can go hang out with the kids and the people that are suffering. And well, we're going to trust you with that. Well, we're going to trust you with our most valuable resource, children, but you can't do this, that, or the other. I never even thought about that until before. And then now it kind of opened my eyes. Like, why isn't there a process for that for everything?
Yeah.
For any area, you know, if you can do the background check, you can do some clearance, you can do some interviews, and there you go, a few extra steps.
Policy changes, man. Education, and you know, going down and talking to the legislators, understanding how these bills go through and what's on the table, and you know, that's a different side of advocating that is worth exploring into.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're right, these are our children, they're our future, right? And here you are in a position to be able to help them create real change in their lives, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't sell a house.
No.
Yeah, right?
Can't sell a house. Can't be a mortgage broker.
And to think that you could be actually a part of some type of systemic change-driven movement, that would create a macro change, right? Instead of just the one individual, you know, that we get to work with, you know, daily, or a group of individuals. You're impacting a whole community.
You know, and really too, even working with one individual can impact the whole community. You know, because we might think, well, you know, we're just helping this one person out, but by helping that one person out, you're helping his kids, you're helping his parents, you're helping his neighbors, you're helping his employer.
Yeah.
I mean, you're helping the state from having to pay money to lock him up because he can't stop committing crime to stay high. I mean, there's a huge effect just on that one person. Then say he, you know, drinks the Kool-Aid and decides to help another person or two people, and then they get better, and then their employers, their neighbors, their communities, all these different things that just keep spreading like wildfire. Before you know it, 50, 100, 200, 500 people are affected because of it.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. When we spoke at ASU a few months ago, and I got to speak with my CO3, one of my CO3s in prison. Me and him went in there and shared. And it was really cool, first of all, because I know him really well. I did a lot of time underneath him. And to hear him talk about corrections outside of a prison setting to future correctional leaders, future law enforcement leaders, it was really cool because you could hear his passion, right? And he also said the unpopular things like caring about, you know, somebody's welfare, right? And wanting to see them do better, and promoting programming and giving people an actual chance, not just the proverbial second chance, but we're going to pay you $5 an hour. But in that, when we were talking that day, very rarely do I talk about my prison history. It's not important. It's not anything that I want confused for anything that anybody could possibly think was cool or fun or any of that shit, right? I'm embarrassed by it. I'm disgusted by it. But for that setting, it was important because those students have never been inside of a prison. Cool thing is they've all been inside of a prison now because Maddie brought him down to Phoenix West to meet me and Powell inside the prison. But at the time, they'd never been in there. So all they had was the stuff in their minds. So I was able to talk to him about that a little bit. And I did it with a little bit of intention. So at the end of it, they didn't like me. Right. And then I acknowledged, I was like, I don't like my story either. I don't get it. I was like, I get it. You know, if you don't like me, but you don't have to like me. My mom, my kids, my grandkids, all those people, they didn't do anything wrong. My neighbors that I'm coming home to, they didn't do anything wrong. Not necessarily even about that person. That helps with compassion. If that helps people to do their job and affect change, you don't have to do it for that person. Because 5% of the prison population is coming home. And if you're going to be in that business, being in that business and hating people that are incarcerated, that's a recipe for disaster. Absolute recipe for disaster.
Well, and even not even being in that business, like you said, 95% of the people that are incarcerated are going to come home. So even if you don't want to work with the justice system, you don't want to work in behavioral health, these people are still coming home. They still have to come back into society. They still have to work. They still have to learn to be responsible, productive members of society, or else they're going to terrorize your neighborhood like they always have.
Yeah.
They're going to be the ones that your kids are getting high with. They're going to be the ones stealing your stereo out of your truck. They're going to be the ones stealing your trailer that has the tools in it. They're going to be the ones stealing your identity. They're going to be the ones breaking into your house. Or they can be the ones helping your son get better because your son's got a substance use problem.
Yeah, that's what blows my mind because it's such an interesting contrast, right, between the victim who wants and deserves justice and then the ineffectiveness of people being punitive, right? It doesn't work. If it fucking worked, it would be working. It hasn't worked since the beginning of time. There's tons of data to show it doesn't work. But they don't want to coddle people that are in prisons. Well, here's the thing. Yes, justice for the victim, 100%. Being removed from your family, from your friends, from your society, from most of your decision making. That's a huge punishment. But what if we could change the whole, and this is going all the way over to the other side, but instead of people fearing going to prison, because I was fucking scared to death and I walked onto a 2-yard in Douglas, right? And I was terrified, dude. I was absolutely terrified my first time going to prison. And what if we somehow could do the work and change that where people weren't terrified to go to prison because prison was a place where people went and healed and rehabilitated and learned and came out better people? Because most people, granted the 3 people at this table, we're the exception.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way.
Just responded well to it, you know.
Yeah. The third time, 17 fucking years
Yeah.
later. I made a change inside there and used a little bit of stuff that they had in there to turn and grow. And I think the 3 of us did the same. But most of us, and the first 2 times I came out of prison way worse. My morals were down, my everything. I just came out way worse. That's all that fucking matters. What if we could get people coming out better? And it's not going to work for everybody. But in order to move in that direction, we have to do new things. And that's why I love with the new director they got with that reimagining corrections and the things that he's doing in there and the art studios and people, oh, there's art studios. But what do you want them to do?
Yeah.
Sitting there in a fucking cage, hate cops, hate authority, hate everybody, be fear for your life every time the doors crack, and then get out and be productive. It doesn't fucking work.
And he's doing more than anybody's ever done for us.
Right.
Yeah. 100.
Like him or don't, he's doing more than anybody ever has.
100%. He's affecting real change, man. And it's really cool to see that. And it's trickling down. You see it. I just had an experience with parole. These 2 parole officers, the parole officer and the supervisor, they could have locked this dude up super easy, right? He gave them all the ammunition they needed, everything, the easy decision for them. Lock him up and be done with it. They wouldn't have to deal with him again. Right? Next time he got out, he'd be off parole. Yeah. Their job's over. It's off their caseload. But they did the work. They did the investigation. They showed up. They interviewed him. They went to where he was at in treatment, saw that he was working on himself, rescinded the warrant, and gave him an actual chance to take control of his future. Now his future's in his hands. Yeah. And I'd never seen anything like that before. Right? Yeah. And that's kind of the norm with parole. They're working with people. I heard somebody say the other day, like, oh, you're on parole, you can do drugs. And that's one way for people in their sickness to look at things. And I get it. But that's not what they're doing. They're supporting people through those relapses and hopefully into long-term recovery.
Long term. Yeah.
And it's not a free-for-all by any means, but just to see parole officers doing that work and genuinely making decisions that are the best for somebody, man, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's almost like in a way that there's some underlying mandate to work with an individual unless they pick up new charges,
Yep.
right? You know, like, hey, like he's not on our radar, he's not under any type of investigations. So work with him.
Absolutely.
Try to get him help.
Hey, old Kansas is on here. What's up, Jerry? How are you, man? Glad you're here.
Well, JT.
Glad you're here. No, Jerry Herr.
Oh, Jerry
So,
Herr.
I
Not
don't
Trafney?
I don't want to put his business out here, but I've known him for a long time,
Okay.
man. He did a lot of time.
All right.
Really good dude. Working in peer support now, free as a bird, happy,
Good for him.
rolling around in a truck, doing good things. That's awesome, man. Absolutely awesome. Another thing I got told when I came out of prison, the prisons had already cleared me. I knew I was going back in. They let me back in literally the next day, but it was for a private prison. And I don't remember exactly where I heard it from, but someone told me that you couldn't go in there without a fingerprint clearance card. And I was just like, fuck, man. So
I don't have that.
I almost started working on the fingerprint clearance card first. And I was like, let me call.
Yeah.
I called, did the work, found out you don't need that. And I was like, hell yeah, man, that's awesome. I started that process. And I'm glad I started when I did, because thank God for Robert Purdy. And 37 emails later, that dude, all three of us have been through it together, walked me through that process. But that's another thing that if we would have let that information stand, we would have been screwed.
Well, and even peeling the onion back even farther, you know, you hear, well, you got to have a badge to get on a prison yard. And that requires a year off paper, 2 years out of prison, yada, 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 yada. And that might be true in some cases, but it's also true that there is certain situations and circumstances to where that's not necessary. You know, but I was always told you can't get back in without a badge. And like you were told, you can't have a badge without a fingerprint card. And I was told, oh, you can't have a fingerprint card as a felon. Oh, you can't get a fingerprint card on parole.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it's like, there's no fucking way I'm going to ever get back in there. You know?
Oh, I just heard a huge win today, because this is something else that I was told, that you can't coach like Little League or be around, you know, the kids' sports and that kind of stuff. Well, I have a really good friend of mine who coaches all kinds of Little League, and he's been to prison.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it for a while. He's been out for a while, so I never really asked if he had to go through any of the background stuff. But my other friend, Dylan, I talked to him this morning, and he had to go through a background check. He did all that stuff, and now he's a T-ball coach. All right, these are dads that, if you're a dad, you just go ahead and assume that I can't coach or if that's what you want to do, you can't be a part of that because somebody said it. Well, I know two of them that are doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's awesome. And these are two really good people who have changed their lives and are on a completely different path. But I heard about that 7:00 this morning. I was like, hell yeah, there's another win.
Well, it's crazy because looking back, just laughing, I mean, you can be whoever you want to be in prison. I don't know how many doctors, lawyers, stockbrokers, I mean, how many of these affluent businessmen that I've met in prison who were bumming shots of coffee off me.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, can I get a spoonful? I mean, yeah, but aren't you a doctor, dude? Are you fucking kidding me? You know, so it's like, if I know that they're full of shit, why don't I just accept the fact that they're full of shit all the way across the board?
Yeah.
Most of the time they are.
You can't be full of shit a little bit. Right? I'm not just going to lie about this. It's going to pretty much transfer to anything that I don't want to tell or don't want to admit or whatever. It's just not, it's not a great.
Yeah, and you know, it's like these ever revolving conversations that people have while they're incarcerated really sets, you know, up somebody, you know, and ultimately when they get out and they've heard enough no's or I can't and they live in that space, they're never going to get anything done.
No.
Yeah, another one that's I think is pretty important is you hear in prison a lot that you can't get a passport as a felon.
No, that's a huge one.
That's a lie.
No, you can't. You can't.
Yes, you can.
Yes,
You can?
You can get a
Oh
passport.
my God.
I've gotten a passport on parole out of prison before with my parole officer's blessing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
you
dude.
absolutely 100% can get a passport as a felon.
Yeah, that's something I've heard about forever. And my buddy Glenn, he's passed away now,
Mhm.
fentanyl overdose. When I was in prison and talking to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I just went to I don't know some country, I forgot, Cambodia or something." And I'm like, oh, and I told him, I said, we can't get passports on. He's like, bullshit, you can't. He goes, I just went, dude. Like, I have a fucking passport. That's the first time I heard it, but obviously now I know that you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another big one that inhibits. I just had a couple that I know go through a lightweight similar situation where the guy was saying he couldn't go because, his history. Oh, she's like, oh no, you can get him. Took him down there and got his passport.
Yeah.
And they just went out of the country. So it's pretty awesome. And Andy's going to Argentina this summer. He just graduated, got his master's degree. I'm not going to say where he works, but he works in a treatment center doing big things. And now he's off to Argentina. Masters, Argentina, just had a baby. Man, your life sounds hard, Andy. It sounds hard.
Right on.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Andy, I don't even know if Andy knows this, but we were at Graham Unit. And I was working in a program doing the peer support thing. And one of the guys that was in that program, Andy was their sponsor. And they were out there doing yoga. And some dickhead went over there and was, Dad, that's whatever they say about yoga, right? Said some dumb shit. And I was pretty riled up. We had our little meeting after they got done with the yoga, just because that's what time we scheduled it for. And he was in there and he was pretty worked up. And the next day, or whenever our next meeting was, he comes back to the meeting, to follow up, and we're talking. And I'm like, so how'd that turn out with that dude? He goes, man, Andy, I went to his house. We started making burritos, and I was like, what are we doing? And Andy used to make burritos and kind of go give them to the people who didn't have money, didn't get love from the streets, whatever that looked like, kind of service work. And they brought that dude a burrito. And the guy's like, what's this for? For you, man. You want a burrito? Yeah, I guess. Gave him a burrito and I walked away. I don't know if he ate that fucking burrito. I wouldn't have. But just that was like such a genuine act of kindness. I was like, man, I want to be like that dude. I wouldn't even have thought to do something like that. I don't even think today I would. I'm a lot further along in my recovery. But just such an intentional act of kindness directed just at a ignorant act. And it was a huge lesson for me. And I remember when I first got to that unit, and he was a big 12-step guy, and he was teaching, and he was like, when you get your, not peer support, but when you get your peer facilitator thing, they had like a
Peer
little
mentor.
They had a little class that you had to take that Andy taught. And so he was doing all that cool stuff, and I was trying to get sober, but I wasn't fully sober yet. And I was still not anywhere near like really a caring attitude, but I wanted to be better. And I remember looking at Andy, I'm like, man, that dude is just so carefree, running around here, just full of joy. I was like, doesn't care what anybody thinks, just being himself. He was just such a true person. I was like, man, I wish I could be like that. I didn't think I could, but I wish I could be like that. He had a huge influence on me.
It's awesome.
Really, really, really cool to see. And now he's out here just crushing it, man. Absolutely crushing it. So good to see you, Andy. Glad you're here, man. Catherine's on from the Eris Foundation. I believe she's locked in for next Wednesday.
Nice.
I believe. So I'm saying it out loud in public. So now she's kind of obligated.
Wonderful.
But hopefully we get to see you next Wednesday, Catherine. And I talked to that person you talked to me about today, and he's all set for tomorrow. We got him in somewhere. So, what about people who re-enter always reoffend? Yep, she's in for Wednesday.
I would challenge that statement. Definitely. But I have been on the other end of that. I would say that people that don't work a program of recovery and make serious changes have a higher chance of offending.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. There is no absolutes. There's
No.
never an absolute.
No.
But nowadays, I think they got more of a chance of dying than reoffending. They'll be lucky to reoffend if they go back out. I know if I go back out, I'm dying. I'll OD.
Yeah.
I'll die.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Will you come to my funeral? Will you speak at it?
I'm gonna go pick that bike up.
Yeah.
I forgot that thing was still in the garage over there.
No, that's one of the things, man. That's one of the things that when I'm working with guys, I try to just really get across is that, man, it's not all fun and games anymore. I mean, going back out this time could mean your life,
Yeah.
and that's a real thing. is a fucking high worth the possibility of your life? Because you're playing Russian roulette every time you fuck with that shit.
It's definitely, and it's hard to watch, man. Like, I don't know if I talked about it on here or somewhere else, but there's people that I don't even know, right? That I just meet through work or through, through the stuff that we do, and they're struggling, and or somebody relapses that I barely know, and it like breaks my heart because you know what's coming. I know what's coming. You guys know what's coming, and I can only imagine like what the fuck my parents went through watching me do this shit over and over, and they love me. If I feel this way for pretty much strangers, don't get me wrong, I've had good friends relapse too, people that are really close to me, but if it hurts that much to watch somebody I barely know relapse, like what did that do to my, like, I'm so lucky my family even talks to me, dude, after all that stuff. Whip,
Yeah.
what's up, man? Whip's on here from Arrowhead. She's a phenomenal rock star in the reentry community. We got to get you on here too, Whip. She came on to say what's up. Jimmy Giordano called us names. Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate you.
I've been called worse. Actually, I've been worse.
Way worse,
Yeah.
man. Way worse. But the reoffending thing, you're 100% correct, right? If we don't go in there and do something and make a change, that's what happened. Like that 42% stat, whatever DOC says that, is the reoffend rate. I know way more than 42% of, like 100% of the people that I know went back to prison at least once.
Yeah.
I don't know where that 42 comes from. Maybe it's the people we didn't talk to in prison or something, but I don't see how that's a real.
And like, is it subjective? Like, is a person that goes to prison for, let's say, a couple stolen cars and they go for 3.5, did they get out and get a drug charge? And then they went back.
It's just reoffending
I mean,
in general.
it's just, yeah, reoffending in general, because, I mean, technically that's not reoffending. It's not, I mean, yeah, I mean, if they go back for like a year for.
I tried to use that argument when they wrote me.
I know.
I still got 10 years on the class 4.
Yeah. 10 years on a class 4, huh?
Well, then I wonder if you broke that down even farther,
Yeah.
how much of the people that reoffend have mental health as well, co-occurring stuff,
It's all mental health,
Yeah.
all of it.
I don't know.
Yeah, things.
George, we need those numbers.
I'm not a numbers guy, bro.
We need them next week.
I'm not a stats guy. Justin actually just told me a really cool statistic. They said, I think Stalin has a quote where he said, if 1,000 Russians get killed somewhere, that's a statistic. But if you deal with one of those Russians, it's newsworthy, right? Because that one person has the story. When you talk about large groups of people, it's just a statistic, but you're not talking about the one guy that got killed that had 2 kids. That it was a really interesting quote. And you kind of touched on it with the affecting one person, right? Because that's something when I got trained in this and worked with Tori and Justin and all that, they talked about, we do it just for one person. And I was brand new to peer support and rehab. I'm changing the fucking world. I'm going to fix everybody and blah, 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 all that kind of shit. And now experience and time and all that other stuff, that power of affecting that one person, man, it's insane how much of a ripple effect it is. I was talking to Kristen Johnson today, and I met her in prison, right? We don't meet a lot of girls in prison, but I taught classes virtually at the Second Chance Center at Perryville. That was my first interaction with her because she talked about a book that I still have, The Daily Stoic. I caught my ear, went over there, we had a conversation. That's how we connected. She got out. She sends in a newsletter to people that she did the stuff she said she was going to do, started sending in a newsletter. We started talking, got out, and we're really good friends now. And she was talking just about like the ripple effects of that. And another girl that I met through prison, she just been out a year today. I remember she got out a few days before me. She was in my very last CDL class. And now she's a truck driver. And it's so cool to be like such a small part of someone's story. Not only that, she's now mentoring one of the girls that we helped get into where I work at New Freedom.
And we think
She's like,
it's
I'm
a
getting
small,
my CDL.
Yeah.
and we think it's a small part of their story, but to them, we're a huge part of their story. I know that throughout my life, those people that have came into my life and influenced me with kindness and hope are people that I'll never forget. I'll never forget those people because, those times in my life were huge. It was huge.
Yeah, Greg
was
Menace is a huge part of my life. He was one of my students at the Second Chance Center, and he said that the values and instilling them in with goals and SMART goals, and he was a truck driver for a few years and purchased a home in Tennessee, and and it keeps those values like in his visor, in his Bible, all those things. He's centered his whole reentry around just setting goals around his values and getting in touch with who he was. And he studied for this job position in Tennessee because he said he didn't want to be a truck driver. And he called me last week and he got the job.
Good
And
for
he
him.
has no degree and his salary is $225,000 a year.
No.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Literally, you can do anything. And the impact that he has on me today is so much greater than, I can't say that. But he tells me all the time, every time we talk,
Yep.
Thank God for me. And it's such a warm feeling
Yeah, it is.
to be a part of somebody's story.
I'll tell you guys a story. So, 18 years old, I was first introduced into recovery for a short time. I was at Tent City. I got released. Went to this little place called Chicanos Por La Casa, Corazon. It was basically get out of jail early and go to this rehab. And I was like, all right. So I remember this guy came in and he shared a story. And I remember every hair on my body standing up, getting goosebumps everywhere. And I knew that was going to be my sponsor. And I asked him. And I remember this dude would drive literally across town to my work to sign my little card I had to get signed every week. He would take my phone calls. He would spend time with me on the weekends and wanted nothing in return. And that was the first time in my life anybody other than my family had actually shown that they gave a fuck.
No.
And I remember, even though I didn't stay sober, that seed had gotten planted. Fast forward about 15 years. I'm getting released from prison for the second time. At this time, it's like 2014, 2015. And I'm getting released and I'm having a panic attack. And I'm freaking out. It's 2 a.m. I can't sleep. I'm freaking out. I'm losing it. And I remember that man had such an influence on my life that I still had his phone number memorized after almost 20 fucking years. And I remember I was freaking out. I was having a panic attack. 2, 3 a.m. I remember dialing his phone number and he answered it. After all that time.
He was on your 20 list?
No.
How'd you
This
call
is
him?
from home.
Oh.
Yeah.
I had the panic attack when I got out.
Oh.
And I called him and he answered.
That's phenomenal, dude.
Same phone number. And even though he had to work the next day, it was like 2 a.m. Talked to me for like an hour. I'll never forget that, man.
Yeah.
And it's people like that you come across in your life that even though they might not still be in your life or might not be the people that you see every day, that man had an impact on my life that I'll never forget.
No.
And now that I've had my experience, I've gotten to a place to where, I've drank the Kool-Aid and I'm all in. What I try to do with the guys that I sponsor is I try to show that same kindness and that same compassion that man showed me.
That's all. That's
Yeah.
a lot of kindness and
Yeah,
compassion.
it is.
2 in the
It's
morning, phone answering.
Yeah.
Yeah,
After 15, 20 years.
that's amazing, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's why I always, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I check my phone. Yeah.
I put
Yeah,
my
check
shit in
that.
airplane mode and go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm just being 100% transparent.
I'll throw a rock through your window if I need to talk to you.
Yeah, throw-
Yeah. You will talk to me.
yeah.
I will be heard.
Come knocking on that
I
door.
will be heard.
It's so awesome, man. Yeah, and it's just loving on people. And like I say this, and I don't mean anything towards DOC. Right? This is just how I feel about it. At the end of the day, DOC's primary assignment, right? Their mission,
Is community safety.
yeah, making sure we don't leave.
Yeah.
That's okay, right? They're doing stuff in addition to that, which is cool. But nobody cares about us, or should work harder than us on us getting better.
That's right.
Right? So we get to create the community. And it's something that I hear when I go in their prisons. Oh, I'm in here. I can't do this. I fucking did it, dude.
Yeah.
My friends did it. I watched people do this on not just one unit. The dude I ended up getting signed up with a mentor, he did it before me.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know the guy. I just heard his name up until the point I got out. Oh, you remind me of Nooch. You remind me of Nooch. You remind me of Antonucci. Because he was doing the same, similar work.
Yeah.
And then I talked to these other guys at work at New Freedom. And they were doing similar things on different yards. You find that staff member that's willing to give you, you know, not break the rules, but willing to open a door for
Open
you,
a door.
willing
Give
to
you a
make
room.
willing to make some copies.
Fought
You know
so
what I
many
mean?
years to get doors open.
You can find those people. Do
Wow.
the fucking work. Stop living in excuses and stop buying into the we can't do shit here. You absolutely can.
I remember when I sat with the CO4 up in Winslow, I was like, all I need is for you just to care a little bit. I'll do the rest. And just ask your officers that when it's time, I can get that door open. And she looked at me and she said, okay. And that was it. It looked like she didn't want to,
No.
but she said, okay. And like she felt the sincerity and the passion that I touched on whatever strings that she has, that she wants to take care of her own family, right? Because I think that's where a place comes from, right? And she was able to get that door open. And the CO3 didn't like it too much.
No, there's always somebody who doesn't like it.
Did not like it too much.
I've literally been kicked off.
What are you doing in here?
I've literally
Get
been
out of
kicked
this
off a
room.
yard. Kicked off a yard for doing too much pro-social
yeah,
shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And the crazy thing
Yeah,
is,
absolutely.
the fucking DWAP, the person, the deputy warden of that whole entire complex, just messaged me on Facebook Messenger. She's retired now, Kim Daniels. She's awesome up in Safford. She messaged me on Facebook and was like, man, I fucking hated the way you moved. That was bullshit. And she gave me a bunch of compliments for the work that we did there.
Yeah.
This is 4 years ago. You know what I mean? That's how much stuff we did up there that made that kind of an impact. And she was an awesome deputy warden in the first place. When she got moved to DWAP, we were a little bit heartbroken. We got another deputy warden in there and kept going. But yeah, it's finding those officers, finding your space. I don't care if it's in a cell, in a run, on the rec field. We used to go to the rec field at Globe at night and sit at a table and talk and do our thing. You know, we weren't holding meetings, but we were just doing a little check-in, little group. What's going on? How's your sobriety? What are you doing to work on it? Blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Get it done, man.
Yeah.
Fucking do the shit. If you want to get high, you'd get high. You'd figure that out.
Yeah.
Right? You want to get recovery. Figure that out. Do the work.
We speaking of like the community impact and the ripple effect, and I had the privilege with Kristen Johnson and Jesse Freeman to go speak at ASU in one of Maddie's classes, and we got the feedback today. And one of the gentlemen highlighted that he's changing his major to criminal justice just based off the information he heard on what's going on within the system.
That's cool, man.
Just incredible, man.
No.
You know, because they value education so much. You know, you see that light switch,
No.
you know, flicker on.
That's why we get to do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge part of it.
And I see that you have it written down here. Education doesn't change incarcerated individuals. That's the biggest lie I've ever heard.
No.
It's the biggest lie I've ever heard. And the fact that there's lots of things changing, but you know, some of the challenges that individuals face, not having access to scholarships and different things, and you know, it's heartbreaking. And even the technology aspect of it all, you know.
And I'll say this. I'll say this, brother. Like, so I got 2 college degrees in prison.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I had felonies for over a decade, you know, I let people tell me that nobody was going to hire me. And I believed it and used it as an excuse to go out and get high. And this time, when I finally came around and decided to actually try and look for work, that college education that I got in prison, those 2 college degrees that I thought I wasn't going to be able to do anything with, got me $6 an hour right out of prison, more than I would have been paid without them. So it helped me substantially. It was the difference of me making $18 or $24 an hour when I first got out.
No.
So did it get me rich? No, but it sure the hell did help out a lot. It made a difference.
You know, I bear witness to, you know, Angelo receiving the all academic scholarship this year because of his work with the Honor Society over at Rio Salado.
Yeah, he does amazing stuff, man. Him and
Eden.
Cordero.
Yeah, Cordero and Eden.
Eden's going to college too?
I don't know. Just that nonprofit work that they're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
over there,
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
connections that they made. But yeah,
Jamie Whipple put on here, she said, you never know the impact you have on those you see and those you don't. Keep doing what you do because you're reaching more people than you can ever imagine. I serve 600 women a year, and 33% of them come home to nothing, not even the ability to make a phone call to say, hey, I'm coming home. That's why this work matters. It's about more than just individuals. It's about building a community, a family on a larger scale. And if you look at us now, we're proof that second chances work. There's a whole group of us out here breaking the cycle, staying free, and thriving, right? And from all different walks of life, dude.
Yeah.
From, men, women, all different ethnicities, all different backgrounds. And it's something we talk about when we go into prisons. Like, we're not the only ones doing this.
Yeah.
We're not out here, and I use the term flipping burgers just as a rep. Like, we don't have just get by jobs.
Yeah.
We're all in our passion, right? Including Jamie for a fact, Andy, most of these people that are on here tonight. We're all out here in our passions, doing the work that we love, waking up happy every day, surrounded by support, surrounded by love. It's just, Andy said you can be a licensed therapist with education and have felonies. It happened to me. No, he's a licensed therapist over where he works at. And I don't know if we're supposed to talk about your work, Andy. So, but yeah, he's a licensed therapist. I know also when I talked to Andy I believe when I had just gotten out or when I was still incarcerated, he was working in a high school with kids.
No, you can't do that.
No, you can't do that. You definitely can't do that. He was doing it. It's just, it's unbelievable, man. So it's really cool to see people out here just dream chasing, believing in themselves, acting like human beings, feeling love, being loved, loving themselves, having self-esteem, showing up for each other. It's just, it's phenomenal.
And that's a big part of why I think it's so important to have people in your life that are going to add value to you, that are going to add motivation, that are going to uplift you.
Yeah.
That aren't just going to bring all that negativity and that nonsense.
Yeah, all the bullshit.
I don't need to hear nonsense over and over forever to the point to where I start believing it.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
It's the truth. It's all 100% of it is who you surround yourself with. I'm reading a book right now called No Ego. It's about reality-based leadership.
Read that book. It's
Awesome.
incredible.
And there's a quote in there. I read it this morning, and it says the most resilient people have the most meaningful networks. And it really, having that network just increases your resilience. You're able to get through, to move through things tenfold. And I bring it back to Justin again. Justin's kind of become a mentor of mine. He's helping me walk a certain way. And when I don't know stuff at work, that's who I go talk to. And I told him about the stuff that I had going on between school and the house and work and all this new platforms and all this other, administrative shit that I don't know. He's like, man, are you uncomfortable? I said, fuck yeah, dude. He's like, isn't that where we're supposed to be? It reframed instantly in that moment. Yeah, I'm growing, dude. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to suck. This is how we learn. And I was just like, it really, really helped my mindset, because I'll just be honest, before when I was just doing the outreach stuff, to me, that stuff comes kind of natural. I can go out to events. I can talk to people. I can document it a little bit and
Kiss
follow
babies.
up. Yeah, I can shake hands, kiss babies. I can do that all day long, right? That's kind of my skill set. We all got our skill sets, right? That's part of my skill set. But moving into this role, it came with a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't know.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting to learn that stuff. And then it's really cool to have people around that are going to see when you're challenged. We talked about it today, right? When you're inside the jar, it's hard to see what's on the label. And having people be able to read that label for you, if you're ready to hear it, know what's in that jar, what's in those ingredients, and why it works.
I like that. When you're inside the jar, it's kind of hard to read the label.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Well, I can ask you what it says and just believe whatever you tell me.
Yeah, don't ask me. Ask somebody.
Hey, what's the label say, man? I can't do it. I'm fucked.
If you're looking for an answer about what's on your label, I'm not the fucking one you want to ask.
I would ask you before 99% of the other people I know.
Kelly's on here too. She said, sky's the limit. You can even be the president as a felon. Facts, right, Kelly? We do.
Well played, Miss Barhite.
We
Well
can
played.
do whatever we want. Even though you ducked out on the podcast tonight, we're gonna give you a shout out, Kelly. We love you. But yeah, man, it's the thing that really gets me, that I hear from guys often, especially in treatment, right? Guys that are newer into sobriety, just out of prison, relapse, and whatever that looks like. Man, getting a fucking job's hard. No, it's finding what you want to do, finding what your passion is, finding what your purpose is. That shit's kind of hard, right? That's not the easiest thing, because you got to be honest with yourself. You got to see what you enjoy. You got to not worry about the paycheck and take a job at a fucking mine for God knows what reason, right? That can be a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
But getting a job, is not hard
And not that mine's a bad job, just for me.
for you.
wasn't a
Yeah,
good fit.
absolutely. But that was part of you finding your passion. You had to go try it, realize that wasn't it, and then come back
It's
over.
ridiculous. You look like a great mine worker.
I look like a miner. I look like a good hand.
I remember, I remember when you called me that day too. You were like, Jeremy, I'm not doing it. You know? I'm ready to do this thing. It was good to hear that fire lit inside of you.
It was there the whole time. He's fucking just man.
I remember the look, like some of the looks too. Like when we would have some hard days out at Hickman's, bro.
Oh gosh.
Like, and at the end of the day though, like I would sit across from you and you'd just be like, back at it tomorrow, you know?
You know, for everybody out there, if you've never worked at a chicken farm, you don't know hard work.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't know
really
what
don't.
work is.
Yeah.
Okay, until you've worked at a chicken farm, you do not know work.
That's like I've seen some resumes that have come through, you know, like some women resumes, and I knew what the women did out there at the chicken farm. I'm like, you better hire that girl.
Yeah.
3 years at the chicken farm?
Yeah, she's a soldier.
She's a soldier.
She's a soldier, man.
She'll
Hire
outwork
her-
everybody
hire
here.
her.
She'll do the work of 10 men.
Yeah, she'll do the work of 10 men.
I don't know
for sure.
if I told you guys this. We had this. I run heavy equipment, right, in my other life, and we had this guy that ran the water truck, and he ran it over in the ship pond. And the ship pond's where you dump all the stuff on the chicken farm that you don't want, which they use everything on a chicken farm.
And it
So
stinks.
if it ends up in the fucking pond, it's really, really fucking bad.
Yeah.
And so he goes over there and he's draining this pond, not paying attention, and he fills the back of this fucking white water, you know, the little white water trucks, the non-potable ones, fills it with about this much sludge on the bottom. So my boss fires him that day. My boss was this Paisa dude, and he always called me white boy. He's like, white boy, come here. Well, what's up, Fernando? He's all, I fired that fucking idiot. I'm all,
Okay.
what do you mean you fired him? I already know where this is going. He's like, that fucking truck, I want it empty tomorrow. How do you want it empty? I don't give a fuck. Get it emptied. So me and my buddy Craig Fiegel were in the back of the tank of this truck, and there's no room. So we're barehanding chicken shit, probably 2,000 pounds of it out of this truck all day long. We got our shirts off. It's the worst fucking sunburn I've ever had in my life, dude. The worst sunburn I've ever had in my life. And I was like, all I kept thinking about was like the 20 grand or whatever I was getting out with.
Yeah.
And that brings me to my next point. We hear so many people saying, I just need money, man. I just need that money when I get out. Well, I got out of prison with $20,000, and I lasted about 7 months before I relapsed or something like that. Money didn't fix it, man. I had a place that I was renting. I had a truck. I had a decent job. I had no coping skills. I had no mindset. I had no belief in myself. I had no future. I had goggles on. I was just waiting to get high again. I didn't know it, but I was just waiting to get high again. And so I got high again.
Like a gentleman?
Like a gentleman.
Yeah.
Like a gentleman with my own syringe and everything. And this time, with my mind right, I walked out of prison with $200 or whatever the fuck they give you. Was it 250? I don't know, a couple $100, $200. And fast forward a year later, and this is the best I've ever done. And the big difference is my mind was right. So whatever that work is, and I don't give a shit. Like we talked about it, but I don't know if we talked about it on here or before here, but people that say the 12, oh yeah, it was before. I don't feel home at 12 steps. Oh, that's fine, dude. Where the fuck do you feel at home? You tell me all the shit you don't want to do.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Where do you feel at home? Do that.
Yeah.
You guys know, like, I love 12 steps. It's not for me, but I do fucking work on my recovery.
But you engage in spiritual experiences.
Absolutely.
All day, every day.
I do the 12 steps, just not in a row,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I do service work.
Yeah.
I talk about the shit. I
Yeah.
take accountability.
Yeah.
I've told the people that I can that I'm sorry for what I did. And in some cases, I just try to show them rather than apologize to them because I'm such a fucking liar. They're not going to believe me. But we do the work and we show up and we're in the trenches. And I don't care if you're doing fucking HVAC or if you're working in recovery or whatever it is. Do that stuff that works for you, man. There is a path forward
Yeah.
for every fucking buddy.
Yeah, one of the things I like to ask guys when they're spending all that time telling me what they're not going to do
Yeah.
is I ask them, well, what are you willing to do differently this time?
Yeah.
Tell me what you are willing to do. Let's start there.
Yeah. And let's do a lot. Let's do a lot of that. And they don't have a fucking answer.
Let's do a lot of that.
Yeah, I just got to go to work. Did you work before? Well, yeah, my kids. Did you have your kids before? Yeah. Well, obviously that shit wasn't enough before. Why is it enough now? Oh, it's different. What's different? They don't have any answers. You know why you don't have any answers? Because it's not fucking true.
Because it's not different. Because you ain't willing to do. It's the same thing.
It's the same shit, man. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting into our last
You know,
couple minutes here. We got about a minute left.
I gotta say, man, at the end of the day, my greatest asset was going to prison and paying for my time, for my crime. It really hit home for me this time, and I never look back. I never look back.
No.
You can't unring a bell. You can't change the past.
No.
So, and I'll never forget the way Jesse laughed at me when I fell on the ground in the back of the barn when I slid in chicken shit.
Oh.
I wish I had that on video. We'd post it. God, yeah.
There was maggots all over the ground. The ground was moving.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I won't say myself that my greatest strength is prison, but I will say this, that it took prison.
Yeah.
It took prison to get me to a place of surrender and defeat to make me want to change, man. Just got to the point to where I just got sick of being there.
Yeah. Just became our greatest asset.
Just got
Really.
sick of being there.
I gotta be honest, man. Like, I'm almost a year out, and I'm almost over talking about prison.
Yeah.
Right. I'm still gonna be in the reentry space. I'm still gonna help people move forward and be a part of. Mari, what's up, man? Good to see you. Mari Morgan. She said, "What's up?" But I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, "Man, if you're still talking about the same stuff, you're not growing." And there's plenty of people that can work in and talk about prison forever, but just along with their growth, right? And it's just it's weird to kind of stuff that I have going on my head, because for me, prison's not the solution. Substance use, not the solution. Like, getting better is the solution. Let's talk about getting better. Let's talk about what that looks like. I'll meet you where you're at. If you just got out of prison, we talk a little bit about prison, but let's move forward.
Marla said the coolest thing this week to me. God bless her. She was like, she was talking with one of her friends over the phone. She's like, you know what? I get that you're dating somebody that was in prison and stuff, but you know what? My man never talks about prison. Ever. I never, ever, ever talked to her about any of it. It's just at my house, it's a safe space, and there's just no room for it.
Absolutely.
I think it depends on the audience, and I think there is a time and a place.
Yeah,
I think it's okay to visit, just don't live there.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to connect and build rapport with somebody.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to let them know that you've been there, done that, for them to have any respect for you, to be able to identify. But yeah, spending, your entire being living in the past is not healthy.
I remember going to a dude's house, and he had all the cool guy pictures up on the wall from prison. Right.
Cool guy.
He had a cell phone, so he had all those like, it was a whole room like dedicated to this prison experience. I was just like, dude, you've been out of prison for like 7 years. And I hope he's fucking listening to, because he's an idiot. But I was just like, what is this, dude? I don't know. It just tripped me out. But we're down to our last minute here, so just want to thank everybody for joining. Angelo Lopez says, coming from a place of service and ego, not ego. Christian Brzicki, I'm going to mess up your last name, Christian, so I'm just going to go with Christian, man. Good to see you, bro. Good to see you, man. Just so you guys know, veteran stand down the next 2 days, Thursday and Friday, up at the Capitol, 1700 West Washington. Come out, check it out, support the vets, services, all that cool stuff. Love you guys. You guys got anything else?
Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can do anything you want.
go get it.
Yeah. Chase your education.
Chase your education. All right, man. We love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.